Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's topic is the United States of Babylon. An increasingly popular idea in the Christian community is the idea that the Babylon mentioned in the book of Revelation is actually referring to America. I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason, there is a lot of talk that prophecy in general is very America centric. And I think that that really speaks a lot just to the self centeredness of the society that we live in right now. But today I wanted to talk to you about who I believe Babylon is. And I'm going to show you the scriptures that to me prove who Babylon is because it really isn't as mysterious as people believe. Let's not forget that the book of Revelation, while so many people look at it as a mystery, they look at it as enigmatic. The book of Revelation is Jesus revealing to us what was going to take place. Apocalypse means revealing. So it wasn't meant to be enigmatic. It was meant to be something that would be easily figured out. And I'm going to tell you that the people who it was originally written to, those who were living in the first century, they would have understood the symbology of the book of Revelation much better than we do today. Now, there are also those who believe that Babylon from the book of Revelation is speaking about Rome. And in particular, some people believe it is the Roman Catholic Church. And there are others who believe that Babylon is referring to the actual physical location of Babylon, not a symbolic city, but that it's actually going to be the physical Babylon that is in existence in the Middle East. It is my contention, however, that Babylon from the book of Revelation is actually talking about first century Jerusalem. And I'm going to share with you a comment that someone had left and a response that I also left. And I'm going to go over some things that are hopefully going to help you to understand how I came to this conclusion. So the commenter said, at 52:30, and I believe that this was one of the videos that I recently did on the short season. But it says, at 52:30, what is the evidence that Babylon is Old Covenant Israel, deceiving the nations? I mean, we can see in more modern times the evidence of the Jays deceiving and gaslighting everybody, but what's the evidence back then that they were deceiving the known nations? I'm struggling with this. So I'm just going to read to you my reply, and then I'm going to go over it in more detail. Read Revelation 17. It says the whore of Babylon committed adultery. Who was in a symbolic marriage covenant with the Lord? Israel. It also says she was drunk by the blood of God's holy people. In Matthew 23:31, Jesus tells the Pharisees they were the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Matthew 23:35 then goes on to say, so that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. This only scratches the surface of the correlation between Babylon and Jerusalem. The apostate Jews deceived by denying Jesus was the Messiah, and indeed they crucified him. They actually said, "We have no king but Caesar," when asked if they wanted Jesus released. What bigger deception is there than convincing people that Jesus wasn't the Christ? So let's start out by reading Revelation 17. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. But the angel said to me, Why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman, and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will marvel to see the beast, because it was, and is not, and is to come. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an eighth, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings, who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. And the angel said to me, The waters that you saw, where the prostitute is seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh, and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing it over their royal power to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. Now let's move on to Revelation 18. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was made bright with his glory. And he called out with a mighty voice, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living. Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you take part in her sins, lest you share in her plagues. For her sins are heaped high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Pay her back as she herself has paid back others, and repay her double for her deeds. Mix a double portion for her in the cup she mixed. As she glorified herself and lived in luxury, so give her a like measure of torment and mourning, since in her heart she says, I sit as a queen, I am no widow, and mourning I shall never see. For this reason, her plagues will come in a single day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who has judged her. And the kings of the earth who committed sexual immorality and lived in luxury with her will weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. They will stand far off in fear of her torment and say, Alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargo of gold, silver, jewels, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, scarlet cloth, all kinds of scented wood, all kinds of articles of ivory, all kinds of articles of costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and slaves, that is, human souls. The fruit for which your soul longed has gone from you, and all your delicacies and splendors are lost to you, never to be found again. The merchants of these wares, who gained wealth from her, will stand far off in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning aloud. Alas, alas, for the great city that was clothed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, with jewels, and with pearls. For in a single hour all this wealth has been laid waste. And all shipmasters and seafaring men, sailors, and all whose trade is on the sea, stood far off and cried out as they saw the smoke of her burning. What city was like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, crying out, Alas, alas, for the great city, where all who had ships at sea grew rich by her wealth, for in a single hour she has been laid waste. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, for God has given judgment for you against her. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence and will be found no more. And the sound of harpists and musicians, of flute players and trumpeters will be heard in you no more. And a craftsman of any craft will be found in you no more. And the sound of the mill will be heard in you no more. And the light of a lamp will shine in you no more. And the voice of bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. For your merchants were the great ones of the earth, and all nations were deceived by your sorcery. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all who have been slain on earth. So that's a lot to go over right now, isn't it? But I thought it was important that we read Revelation 17 and 18 in their entirety. I'm going to start, though, from the end of Revelation 18, because I think this is very, very clear, where it says, in her, meaning in Babylon, in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints. Let's go to Matthew chapter 23, and we'll start reading in verse 29. And this is Jesus, and he is speaking to the scribes and Pharisees as they are in Jerusalem. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the monuments of the righteous, saying, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Thus you witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your fathers. You serpents, you brood of vipers, how are you to escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore I send you prophets and wise men and scribes, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from town to town, so that on you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So, right here, we have Jesus telling the scribes and the Pharisees not only that their ancestors had murdered the prophets, but they were going to continue doing it. He says to them, I will send you prophets and wise men and scribes, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and persecute from town to town. And that is exactly what we learn from the book of Acts and from the epistles. That is exactly what happened. So, what Jesus is saying to these people, those who were there with him, those who were standing there with him, that they were the ones that all blood was going to come down upon. And I want to particularly go to this one right now. This is, again, Revelation, I think this is Revelation 18, yes. So, Revelation 18, verse 24. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all who have been slain on earth. And again, what does Matthew 23 tell us? That they killed the prophets and that they were going to continue murdering more prophets, more wise men, more scribes, more saints, and that on them may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth. It has eerie similarity to what is being spoken of right here in Revelation 18. If we continue on in Revelation 18, let's read what it says about this city again. We'll just call it Babylon for now, and we'll see if it sounds again like it might have something in common with Jerusalem. And I should add that when I am talking about Jerusalem, I know that a city itself cannot do these things. I am specifically speaking of Old Covenant Israel, of apostate Israel, those who rejected Jesus. But it tells us, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality. And then if we go down here, it tells us that she will be burned up with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who has judged her. Now, if we go back here, what does it say? Your house is left to you desolate. What happened in AD 70? Not only was the city of Jerusalem completely destroyed, but so was the temple. How was the temple destroyed? The temple was destroyed by fire, and I venture to say that much of Jerusalem was also destroyed the very same way. Next, I'm going to share with you an excerpt from a sermon that David Curtis preached at Berean Bible Church. And in this passage, he is talking about the relationship that Old Covenant Israel had with God. And if we look back into Revelation 17 and 18, it says that Babylon was a prostitute. She was committing sexual immorality with all of these other nations, and in essence was an adulterer. Well, what does it say here? The focus of the Olivet Discourse is the destruction of Jerusalem at the second coming of Christ. Revelation simply expands on the Olivet Discourse. Not only is Israel's destruction the focus of Revelation, but her destruction is set forth in an interesting fashion. She is being punished for adultery. In the First Testament, Israel was considered the wife of Yahweh. Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, although I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 31, verses 31 and 32. Often the prophets mentioned the marital relationship between God and Israel, but Israel chased after foreign gods and was consequently accused of spiritual adultery. Finally, Israel killed God's son while crying, "We have no king but Caesar. His blood be on us and on our children." Revelation represents God's divorce decree against Israel as his unfaithful wife for spiritual adultery. In Revelation 4, we see God seated upon a judicial throne. God's throne is mentioned in 18 of Revelation's 22 chapters. In fact, throne occurs 62 times in the New Testament. 47 occurrences are in Revelation. There is a strong judicial undercurrent in Revelation. In Revelation 5, God has in his hand a seven-sealed scroll, which represents God's divorce decree against Israel. In Deuteronomy 24, God's law required that a writing of divorcement be presented in case of divorce. Here, God presents the divorce papers to Israel. The scroll, which is written on front and back, reflects the imagery of Ezekiel 2, where Ezekiel is handed a scroll that is written on front and back. In Ezekiel 2, this scroll has to do with lamentation and mourning upon Israel. These two scrolls in Ezekiel and Revelation seem to be related. Israel is not only Yahweh's wife in the First Testament, but she is also to serve him as a priest. Thus, in Revelation, Israel is represented as a harlot dressed in priestly garments. Since she is a priest, another First Testament law comes into effect. Also, the daughter of any priest, if she profanes herself by harlotry, she profanes her father. She shall be burned with fire. We see Israel being burned with fire in "And the 10 horns which you saw, and the beast, these will hate the harlot, and will make her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh, and will burn her up with fire." And what did Matthew 23 say again? It said, where is it? Should have checked first. Verse 38. See, your house is left to you desolate. Having legally disposed of Israel at the end of Revelation, God takes a new bride, the Church of Jesus Christ. In Revelation 21, after Israel's death, we see a city coming down out of heaven, adorned as a spotless virgin bride for her husband. And then this goes on and is talking about the New Jerusalem. Next, I wanted to share with you from Revelations and Grace. This is an excerpt from an article there, and I will leave all links in the description box for this. But it says, why was Jerusalem a prostitute? Because she was having an adulterous affair with Rome. She crucified Jesus, her true king, and declared Caesar her ruler. And again, it says right here in John 19:15 and 16, They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So he delivered him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus. Revelation 17, verses 1 through 5. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual immorality. Those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her sexual immorality." He carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet colored beast full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of the sexual immorality of the earth. And on her forehead a name was written: Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of the prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. The prostitute was drunk with the blood of the martyrs and saints. And this part I just went over with you. I firmly, firmly believe that there is enough scriptural evidence to tell us that it was Old Covenant Israel that was being referred to as Babylon. As much as we would like to constantly have ourselves at the center of everything, I don't believe that the Babylon of Revelation had anything to do with America. I don't believe that it has anything to do with the Vatican. And I don't believe that it has anything to do with Babylon coming back to life again, so to speak. I firmly believe that Babylon in the book of Revelation was talking about Old Covenant Israel. This is Jerusalem here, and this was the first century. So that is my take on Babylon. And no, it's not America. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. And if you like my work and would like to support my channel, I will leave a link in the description for my channel membership, or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.